We're going to start the recording. If you're on Zoom, we're getting ready in person. We're just going to have everybody start taking a seat, and then we'll kick off today's meeting. So welcome, everybody. My name is Kevin Polito. I'm the Neighborhood Affairs Division Director with the City of Miami Beach. I'm going to get our camera going for those of you on Zoom. Thank you for coming in person and coming out today with all the rain and some of the flooding in the area. We appreciate you all. For those of you on Zoom, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon and participating in today's meeting. I just want to, before we get started, I'm going to recognize some of the elected officials that are joining us online and in person. Of course, we have our Mayor, Stephen Miner. Thank you, Mayor Miner, for coming. Then on Zoom, I do see we have Commissioner David Suarez. Thank you, Commissioner Suarez, as well as Commissioner Joe Magazine. I saw Vice Mayor Laura Dominguez's aide, Aaron, was also joining us, as well as Commissioner Alex Fernandez's aide, Monica. And happy birthday to Commissioner Fernandez. So today's presentation is to go over the new restricted resident permit program that's being proposed for North Beach. There are 4 zones. There's one in Biscayne Beach, which is today's meeting, one in North Shore, one in Town Center, and one in Normandy. So today's meeting is focused on Biscayne Beach, and you're going to see maps related to Biscayne Beach, but that doesn't mean it's only Biscayne Beach. So I know we have some people in the audience that are in the North Shore area, in this area specifically. So everything you're going to see on the maps is about Biscayne Beach, but the program itself is the same for your area too. So even if you live in this area, and we'll clarify that in any questions. At the end, we'll do questions, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have or listen to any comments that you have about the program. And then today's presentation, the presentation itself is going to be in English, but if you want to have a question in Spanish, si tienen una pregunta en español, pueden venir al micrófono and ellos hablan español, so they're happy to help. If there's anything you need to clarify, si hay algo que necesita preguntar en español que no está en presentación, puede hablar con el equipo que están aquí. So with that, I'm going to introduce Jose Gonzalez. Jose is our interim director of parking and our director of transportation, and he's going to kick us off, go through the presentation, and then at the end, I'll come in and I'll help moderate. We're going to ask everybody 2 minutes per person. And again, any questions that you have about the program, hopefully we could answer them. So, Jose.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Jose Gonzalez. I'm the Transportation Director for the city and Interim Parking Director. I want to introduce my leadership team, Jackie Caicedo and Alberto Ventura. Thank you very much. All right, so what brings us together today is to discuss a potential pilot program that we're calling Restricted Residential Parking Permit Pilot Program. And so that is a mouthful. We're going to refer to it as RRPP as part of this presentation. Okay, so what is an RRPP and why are we contemplating an RRPP? Restricted parking in residential areas prioritizes residents. And no one better than you all understand the challenges of finding parking in areas of North Beach. And so this program or pilot program is intended to prioritize residential parking so that when all of you finish your work day, you could come back home and there's a space or spaces available in proximity to your home without having to be circling and navigating the streets to find parking. So this is our timeline here. This concept was first discussed in December of last year as part of a referral at our city commission meeting. Sponsoring commissioners referred this item to the Finance and Economic Resilience Committee. And so that happened on April 19th. The Finance Committee discussed this potential pilot program and passed a motion favorably recommending it. Then on June 10th, we brought this issue to the Transportation, Parking, and Bicycle Pedestrians Facilities Committee, who also unanimously supported a pilot program. Then on June 26th, The city commission accepted the finance committee's recommendation. That was a critical step because they passed a resolution directing staff, the administration, to start taking the steps to initiate the pilot program, which then brings us to where we are today. We're having a series of community meetings, as Kevin mentioned. We're having a total of 4 community meetings in all the affected neighborhoods. And the purpose of these meetings is to hear your concerns, your comments, your suggestions, as we're still trying to give this pilot some shape and some form before we go back to the city commission for a public hearing on July 24th, and we'll have the details to that in another slide. So a lot of the pilot programs that we initiate in the city start with data, right? We like to show that there is a need and a problem, and then the pilot would be addressing or would be the solution to those problems. So here on this slide, you see the neighborhood Biscayne Beach is all red. It's a 99% red. This is based on current year data, and it's what we call parking utilization. It's what percentage of the parking spaces are utilized. And as you can see, red means over 85%. So it's, we've got a limited inventory of parking in this neighborhood, and it's very highly utilized. Some of the current challenges that we're trying to address as part of this pilot program, and there's several. You all are probably very familiar. There are a lot of commercial vehicles that are taking up spaces that could be used by residents. Some of those commercial vehicles are being used by car share apps. And these car share apps advertise on-street parking spaces for free as part of their business model. Visitors and beachgoers are also looking for free parking. There's a lot of free parking in the area. Businesses and employees are also competing for the same space. And then lastly, we have some cases where the spaces are used simply for storage. Here you see the boundaries of the Biscayne Beach neighborhood. Pretty simple. On the south, we've got 75th Street. On the north, 86th, Crespi on the east, and Hawthorne on the west. We are including, as part of this pilot, P100. It's a parking lot at 8100 Hawthorne Avenue. It's a metered parking lot, and it will remain, it's a residential parking lot, and it will remain residential as part of this pilot program. So some of the boundaries of some of the other neighborhoods, which we're not going to get into a lot of details. We're having meetings, as I mentioned, with each specific neighborhood. These are the boundaries of the North Shore neighborhood. We had the North Shore meeting on July 8th. The Normandy Isle neighborhood, you see the limits there with some exclusions in the single families areas that are single family homes. And then the town center neighborhood, which we've included as well. That'll be our last meeting before the public hearing. So these are some of the parameters pertaining to this pilot program, starting with the duration. We're anticipating a 1-year pilot program. It would be free of charge for residents during that first year. The city would still be issuing visitor permits, or visitor permits could still be purchased. It's $3 per visitor permit for a 24-hour period, and the city can issue up to 30 visitor permits per quarter. We're contemplating a maximum of 2 residential permits, RRPP permits per household, with any additional permits being considered on a case-by-case basis. We've already received some feedback with regard to the maximum of 2 per household, and also in terms of the exclusions. The last bullet there on the slide is initially we're contemplating that properties that have dedicated parking on site would be excluded from the pilot program, meaning those residents living in those buildings would not be eligible for RRPP. We've already heard some feedback from the community on that issue. And also any on-street parking spaces around parks would be excluded. We know that, parks are open to everyone, the general public, even folks from outside our city. So we want to respect that and keep those spaces available until the park closes, at which time those spaces would then be residential. The restricted hours that we're looking at as part of this pilot program are 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. Monday through Friday, and then from 6 p.m. on Friday through 7 a.m. on Monday for the weekend, and then all legal holidays would also be included. During the first 2 months of the pilot program, we will not be issuing any citations. What we'd like to do during that 2-month period is focus on education, on promoting the program, informing our community about all the details of the program, helping our residents register for the program. We will, however, be issuing written warnings. They're just warnings, not citations, but it's important that we keep track of compliance as part of this pilot program. And after the first 2 months, we will start issuing citations, but no vehicles will be towed throughout the entire 12-month pilot program. In terms of registration, as I mentioned, we're offering 2 types of registration, either in person or virtual as well. This slide includes some of the required documentation that will be needed for an in-person registration. We will need a completed application form, government-issued photo ID, proof of residency, such as a utility bill over the last, it's got to be a current utility bill. We're also accepting lease agreements that validate the resident's address, and a valid vehicle registration. Virtual registration, as I mentioned, is also being offered. It's very convenient. You could do it from anywhere, including the comfort of your home. A completed application could be submitted via miamibeachparking.com. We do require proof of residency, such as a current utility bill and your valid vehicle registration. And our IT department highly recommends that you do not submit any government ID via email for security purposes. You can, if you register in person, you can visit our customer service center located adjacent to City Hall at 1755 Meridian Avenue. Those are our working hours there. And then to provide better customer service to this community, we're also offering in-person registration at the North Beach satellite office of our building department. However, space is very limited in that office. So we are asking that you call ahead and make an appointment because, as I mentioned, space is very limited and we don't want folks waiting outside. Some of the safeguards that we're looking as part of this pilot program is that we can issue temporary permits for a 90-day period to allow residents to switch their vehicle registration to a Miami Beach address. We understand that a lot of people are in flux or moving, so we are sensitive to that and can provide those temporary permits. Also, although we will be issuing citations after the first 2 months of the pilot program, we can dismiss your first citation can be dismissed as a courtesy, but we do require at that point that you come in and register for the program. And houses of worship, we're very sensitive to that as well. We understand that congregations can come from outside other parts of the city and outside the city. So we are looking at a special provision, what we call a house of worship permit that would allow congregants to park in the residential zones. These are some of the advantages to registering as part of the city's residential parking program. We offer discounts on all our meters. Usually it's $2. $4. So, well, it depends on the area. It could be, but it could be up to $4 in South Beach. If you're registered as a resident, it's only $1 per hour. You can pay by phone through the Pay by Phone app or Park Mobile app or at a pay station. The 46th Street lot, which is a very popular lot in Mid Beach, we offer a $6 flat rate versus a $20 flat rate, which is the normal flat rate for non-residents. That could also be paid through the mobile apps or the pay station. And then at garages, which is normally $2 per hour, we charge $1 per hour to residents. So again, this is your parking leadership team, myself, Jackie, and Alberto. This is our contact information. Should you have any questions or want to provide any feedback on this pilot program, we'd be happy to answer any of those. And in terms of the next steps, as I mentioned, we're going to have 2 more meetings. We've had 2, including this one. We'll have 2 more, one on July 15th, which will focus on the Normandy Isle neighborhood, and one on July 18th to focus on the town center neighborhood. And then on July 24th at we're going to have a series of 4 public hearings as part of our city commission meeting, one for each neighborhood, starting at 2:30 for town center, 2:35 for North Shore, 2:40 p.m. for Biscayne Beach, and 2:45 for Normandy Isle. That doesn't mean that each neighborhood is only going to get 5 minutes of discussion time. Those are just certain times, which means that the item will not be heard before that time. Okay, and here are a few resources available to stay in touch with us and provide feedback or any type of parking concern, parking enforcement issue that you may have. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much. So now we're going to open it up to questions in person and in Zoom. So if everyone could just queue up over here at the mic, and then we'll ask if you could keep your comments and questions within 2 minutes. So that way everyone has an opportunity to speak. We're going to focus on everyone who's in person, and then we'll also recognize those of you that are on Zoom. I'm just going to bring up my timer here. Just give me a quick second. And then, all right, great. If you're on Zoom, go ahead and click the raise your hand feature. And if you could just state your name for us. And if
My name's David.
Hey, David.
Hi, thank you. Just quick question. So if I have a guest coming over, I get a permit, right, for them? So
Yeah.
so let's say hypothetically, there's this Airbnb renter. He can just get permits out for the people that he wants to come over, and there's still going to be no more parking. I just want to know, like, how would you guys would counter that?
And Albert, if you want to come over to the mic for the people on Zoom.
Since Airbnb is commercial, they're not authorized to have an account to purchase visitor permits.
If they're registered. My question is, I like the full program, but why not directly approach Airbnb since this is the RM-1 zone? Why are they still allowed to operate?
That I cannot.
We can work with our code enforcement department to enforce that. So perhaps after the meeting, we'll have a discussion.
Yeah, because it's, I understand this is trying to better us, but this seems like now I have to pay $3 to have my family over. It's sort of becoming like an HOA gated community without the benefits. There's still crime. There's still things. I understand resources are limited. I do like the program that we can have more space for residents. I just feel like there needs to be a bit more fine tuning to it, because those Airbnb rentals are vicious and they can find any loopholes. So it's a shame to penalize us, and they appreciate that.
And just so you know that if we do find an Airbnb doing that, we revoke their right to have any permits at all. So that's right away.
Perfect. Thank you so much, David. So anybody in person, if you guys want, just come up to the mic, please. And again, if you have anything in Espanol, we're also happy to help. You could just state your full name for us?
Hi, my name is Natasha Hadley. So I don't really understand it very much because I have never had a resident starting where I live. Do we get a piece of paper and we put it in the car, or how does this, like,
Yeah.
how do I know that?
Yeah, how
my
do you
car's
know
not
that you're
legal?
registered?
Because right, so we get a piece of paper, or how do we? how do
So
they
when you
know?
register online,
Is
it's
the-
gonna
is-
be,
Is the license plate?
it's by license.
All right, so, okay, so the question is, my question is at least, where I live, 86th Street, I really don't have people really that go to the beach and park there, and we don't have any businesses really next door, so we don't have restaurants and stuff, so that is not my problem. My problem basically, I have people from other streets who come and park there and like to stay there for 4 or 5 a week. No, I went like 4 nights, 5 nights in a week, and I want to park, and I have to like go all the way at the end of the street. So for me, that's more my problem. So my question is that permit for the whole area that we saw, like, you know, that whole Biscayne area? So basically, I can go park in 85th Street, or so I still have the problem of people parking. So for me, actually, it's not resolving my problem because I still get people from other streets parking on my street. It's kind of like, I wish there was a way to, if this has to be put it, you know, that I can park in my street, but I don't want other people coming and parking in my street too. And I think I have people, all of a sudden notice people from my street and they know that this is the problem, right? I'm not crazy. How can we, you know, so make it a bit nicer then, since we have to pay, make it a bit better for us then too. If
By
it
street.
has to be.
So typically, these types of zones are not street specific. It's usually neighborhood specific. It's as big as the neighborhood is. It could be even larger
Right.
or smaller. There's no set size, but typically not down to like
To
the street level. Now,
or-
part of the reason that some of your neighbors from other streets may be parking your street is because they can't find parking on their street.
Well, but
So-
their streets aren't such a Airbnb kind of street, let's be
Mhm.
honest, and there's still no restaurants on that street, so the only interesting street is maybe our street in the end of it, so
Mm.
for if, you know.
There's an ordinance that a vehicle technically cannot be in the same parking space for 48 hours. Once we are notified of that, what we do, we start an enforcement action. We put a red tag on it. If the vehicle doesn't move within 48 hours, then the vehicle can be towed.
Right, well,
When it had,
I know that.
when we do have a residential program, then we could run the tag. If it's a resident, then we can always notify them that the vehicle can be moved. That's another plus
Right.
when you have a program, that you are able to reach someone and ask them to move. If there is a construction project going on, before we tow the vehicle,
Yeah.
again, we have the information on the owner of the vehicle where we can ask to please come and move the vehicle.
Speak into this mic for Zoom. So there's also a question if that's in effect now. It is in effect now, where it's less, I mean, over 48 hours, it can be ticketed and towed. But what Albert was saying was there's no residential parking permit now, so we can't reach some residents. So if a resident is parked for over 48 hours, unfortunately, and there's a complaint about it, unfortunately, we would go ticket and possibly tow it. With this program, we will also be able to call them and say, hey, your car's been here for too long. Can you please move it? Okay, and this is the number for all of you to call, and you should have it on your phones. So if you want to take out your phones, this is the number to parking dispatch, which is also with code compliance. So it's a good number to have if you need to reach parking and code. It's 305. And I'll repeat it a few times. 305-604-4785. Again, that's 305-604-4785. You call that number and parking dispatch will respond. And in Spanish, let's try 305-604-4785. One more time, 305-604-4785. All right, and well, if somebody else has a question in person, come on up to the mic. I'm gonna go to somebody on Zoom. Yeah, I'm gonna go straight to Zoom, and then I'll come back to you, sir. Thank you. I have Nicole. If you could state your full name for us, Nicole.
Hi, yes, it's Nicole Ibarra.
Hey, Nicole.
Hi. So I have a question. My husband and I own a property in Normandy, and we have a tenant that lives there that has a vehicle. How will it work for us to obtain a parking permit for our tenants? And in the event that it's no longer her and maybe a future tenant, how will that work?
Thank you, Nicole. So Jose is going to come up and help answer that question for you, Jose.
As I mentioned earlier, a lease agreement is one of those documents that you can show upon registration. So any properties that are being leased, a lease agreement would work.
So Commissioner Suarez.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey, hi. I'm just chiming in. I just want to let everyone know. I was the sponsor of this item. The intent of this item is to give more residents parking who live in your neighborhood. And we are more than welcome to. We're more than happy to accept feedback and accommodations for this program. Like Kevin said, we're going to have no parking for the pilot program. It's going to be 100% free. And we are doing everything we can to make sure that this pilot program is successful. And, I'll be the first to admit it, that if this doesn't work or if it's a complete disaster, we have no problem abandoning it. But in every residential neighborhood in Miami Beach that has a residential parking permit program, it's a 100% success, and there are no complaints whatsoever. So, and that's because it works, and people are happy with it. So, I'm hoping to bring this to other neighborhoods that really do suffer from the abuse of bad actors such as the Turo app or Airbnb and VRBO. So we hear you, and we are more than welcome to accommodate even further to make this work. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We're going to go back in person. If you could just state your name for us. Thanks for your
Mark
patience.
Bjorkman, and I have a lot of questions. So, number one, first of all, you talked about as a resident of North Beach, I'll be able to use parks, but now you just said that it's residential for the whole weekend. So, as a resident of North Beach, I can't go to Normandy Shore Pool and park there because I'm not a resident of Normandy Shore Pool. So, how's that going to work? Number one. Number two, dedicated parking residents, do they get options for the visitor parking or not? Because if they don't, then basically you're saying that someone who has a dedicated space can't have visitors. Everyone else can. So that's a problem. Number two, I think we're having some. Yes, parking could be a problem, but we've missed a lot of opportunities and are making it worse. All the built bubble outs that we built in North Beach that took a ton of parking away. All the Ocean Terrace, we just took a ton of parking away. We did the lot on Hawthorne, which I live on. We did it 1 story instead of 3. We can do a three-story build house, but we can't do a 2 or 3-story parking garage. Why? We have problems, but we have to have solutions. Before we do a residential parking thing, we have to give people options of where to park. Garages, we have none, 0. Now we're gonna also have a bigger problem when the parking space for 71st to 75th. Are we building something there at some point? When we start building that, what's gonna happen? Where is everyone gonna park? For all of the residents and the companies, where am I going to park to go have dinner or have a burger to shake? You're making it difficult for us residents to live in the neighborhood. So I know I threw a lot out there, but those are some of my concerns.
Okay, Al's going to walk us through some of those, and then we'll help Jose with anything else. Jose?
Okay, the first question referenced the park. We work around the park hours. We have this residential permit in South Beach in the Flamingo area. So we work around the park hours. The residential zone does not go into effect until that park closes 7 days a week. Okay. No, and that's what I'm saying, that we work around those park hours because we know they're open 7 days a week. So, and we'll have specific signs around those parks stating what time those residential hours go in effect.
The visitor parking, the answer is yes. We will be giving visitor parking to residents who live in buildings, even if those buildings have their own parking spaces. And to your question about the bulb outs, very good question. So one thing that's important to note about bulb outs is that a lot of times, they're at the corners, at close to the intersections. The reason they're there for a couple of reasons. First is because usually parking is illegal there. When you're so close to either a stop sign or a traffic signal, that area actually is prohibited. If we don't have a bulb out and all we do is stripe that area, people will park there. And then that creates sight visibility, sight line issues, and safety issues. So a bulb out is a physical impediment that does not allow people to park approaching the intersections. They also decrease the distance that pedestrians have to cross. When they go to cross the street, what a bulb out does is it presents the pedestrian, it positions the pedestrian to be further out, further visible to cars, and reduces that crossing distance. So it's for safety and enforcement reasons. Now, right, there are some bulb outs that are either mid-block, and we could take a look at that. We could also take a look at bulb outs that are really big, perhaps bigger than they need to be. We can look at that, and we're going to be doing a sweep of North Beach because we've heard several residents.
And if I could jump in, because mostly for those that are on Zoom, so there was a suggestion to build a multi-level parking garage near the Biscayne Beach Elementary School at the school. So thank you for that comment. That's something again that goes through the policy level. That would be a few years away, depending, if it's approved. But I appreciate that. I just wanted to repeat it for everyone who's on Zoom listening. We're gonna do another in person, and then we'll do two in person, one on Zoom, vice versa. So if you could say your full name for us.
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Adam Ganuza. I am here representing the Miami Beach Band Shell. It's right across on the other side of the parking lot here. We are very much our operations and our sustainability is very much dependent on parking. First of all, thank you guys for being here tonight. It seems that there was quite a lot of research and data that was done to help inform this particular program. I'd like to ask you, what did that data show with respect? What do you expect the impact is going to be of this program? The impact would be on the use of the surface lot here and the other street parking that the commercial businesses and the cultural assets like the band shell rely on.
Great question, Al.
Well, we expect the utilization of those metered areas to go up because those individuals that are parking in the residential zones will no longer be able to park there. Therefore, we'll be opening up spaces for the residents that live there to have those spaces for themselves.
All right, so on Zoom we have screen name is Miami. If you could say your full name. Yeah.
Hi, Wanda James out here.
Hold on one moment. We're gonna get right back to you. Yeah. So just for the people on Zoom, so just to clarify, it's the question was from the last gentleman, what's going to happen if people are parking in the metered zones because they can no longer park west of Hawthorne? I think that's probably going to come down to enforcement. And also, I mean, that's something we're going to have to work out through this program, really. It's something where you do have, once the program starts to take form, I think it may push some people out of those free zones into those metered zones. Those metered zones after 6 p.m. are already free. So, I think that's one of those hardships that we're gonna have to look into, unfortunately. So, but let's see next. Sorry, Miami, if you could say your full name for us.
Hello,
Hi.
Wanda Jamin.
Hi, Wanda.
How are you, Kevin? I have a question regarding this program. I absolutely I'm for it. I just have I think there's a little glitch here. I think I understood that buildings that do have parking, I excluded from the pilot program. And that I think that's a big problem for people in my building. Although they have parking, it's just all the apartments are 3 and 4 bedroom apartments. So they are big families. And everyone has one parking space. So with that exclusion, that is going to put us in a really bad situation. Uh, and I just want to mention that to someone to revise it and take note of it because I heard that he says someone that has parking space is completely cannot cannot be part of the program or visit a parking spaces or anything like that.
Thank you, Wanda. And I'm gonna let Jose clarify. This did come up in the previous meeting. Again, this is a pilot program, so these are one of the things we're looking where this resident feedback of you all telling us, hey, this is not going to work for us. That's something we want to hear, and that's something that Jose's making some changes to. So, Jose.
Thank you very much for that feedback. We heard similar feedback at the first meeting, and I anticipate we'll hear similar feedback in the meetings to come. Just to explain our rationale a little, again, we want to prioritize residents who are having a difficult time parking. So the thought was if there are buildings that already have their parking dedicated, they're already taken care of, so to speak. And we thought, well, perhaps we can deal with those on a case-by-case basis. But we understand that, it's an issue of concern. So we're taking that feedback and we're going to be discussing it internally. And, on July 24th, the City Commission will be discussing all these parameters associated with the pilot.
My name is Alejandro Ravelo. I'm resident from 86P. Okay, my question is, you guys say you give a permit for every resident, no? 2 permits for resident, no? What about the people who have whole car in the house? My son, my daughter, living too.
Yeah, so just for Zoom. So it's really multi cars. So right now, I guess if you get to walk us through how many cars per household.
We're saying 2 initially. The pilot as it's being envisioned is 2 permits per household. Just if you don't mind, do you live in a condo building or do you live in a single family home? Okay, with multiple cars. So one of the things we're looking at are single family homes with driveways and what accommodations could maybe be made there. We're trying to balance a lot of needs here. The needs of, the residents, the workforce, employees, businesses, as well as just the general public. So your feedback is very important. Single family homes, we're going to see how to properly deal with that, as well as I mentioned, condo buildings that have their own.
And the last,
parking.
I'm applying to make the parking space in the city for my house. They don't give me the permit for that, because only 1 car. Parking in the street.
Mhm.
Another thing is, we give you the permit for 1 year for free. After that, you have to pay, you charge for the permit.
Yes,
the
usually there is a cost associated with residential permits, at least the one, we have residential parking zones in South Beach, and there is a cost associated, with that. The cost is to be determined. We don't know that yet. That would be a policy decision of the city commission.
See, I go to the city right now and try to make a permit to make a place in the parking. You think they give me the option?
I'm sorry, the option
The
to
option to make my the parking space in my property?
create, we have to,
create,
yeah, we have to see
What we could do is,
the details. of it.
yeah, if we get your info, you email each other. What we could do is we'll take it to, I think it's building or maybe the planning department. You said you already applied and you got denied, but, there's this program starting. We'll try to guide you through the process and see, why did it get denied? Did it get denied because of comments? Did it get denied because of a planning decision? So that's something we could explore.
And do I don't think nothing I make the parking lot, one of the park, the 85th park in the back.
The garages, similar to this gentleman's point, that's something that would be a policy decision, but it's, at this time, the only garage that is kind of in the hopper that's ready, that, is going to be constructed fairly soon is here on 72nd Street. But I think we heard today some feedback. Can we explore options near Biscayne Beach, near where you live, I believe? Are you on Biscayne or Normandy? Biscayne Beach. Okay, yeah. So that could be an option. I think that's something that would take place more at the policy level. It's a long-term out. That's a little more long-term than, but thank you. And make sure we connect afterwards. And if you have to step out, put a star next to your name. Yeah, come line up. I'm gonna go to somebody. I'm gonna go to Sarah in person first. Oh, sorry. I think this gentleman in red was lining up. So you come up. Oh, hold on. We're gonna get these people. Oh, okay. Come on up. Hi.
Mi pregunta es la siguiente. A los residentes de Biscayne, ¿les van a dar un año gratis y luego nos cobran? ¿O por cuánto tiempo nos van a dar el parqueo?
El programa piloto es por un año. Por un año
Y de
no va a
un
haber
año en
costo.
adelante tenemos que seguir pagando.
Y el costo será determinado por la comisión. Sí, casi siempre hay un costo asociado con los programas de permisos residenciales. Por lo menos el que tenemos en South Beach, hay un costo asociado con eso para los residentes, pero el costo será determinado por la comisión.
Pero South Beach es de renta, nosotros somos residencial.
Tenemos zonas residenciales en South Beach, por ejemplo, la de Flamingo Park.
No, but all right, thank you. So hold on, we're gonna go to some of the people that are in line. Try to get everybody's comments, and we still have some people on Zoom. And then we'll put back on the slide the day where the public hearing is. That's really when the decisions are going to be made for the future. So those, that's really where, if you have any concerns, email us. We'll make sure we share with the commission. Come to the public meeting. The notice is in the back. So that's when, we need to hear this as well. Sir?
Yeah, hi. The first question I have is, what's the number to call to get the residential guest permit?
The residential visitor parking permit? It's going to be virtually. So it's going to be online on our city's website. If you go on our city's website now and you go to the parking page, you will see the residential parking permit. Right now, it's only in South Beach. So you could see how that process works for South Beach. There's links there available. But for North Beach, since it's not there just yet, because there's nothing to be put up.
Right.
Because we're waiting on this public hearing. If the program succeeds or proceeds, then it'll go up.
All right. Can you print it out?
It's
Oh,
by
okay.
tag.
So my other concern is I've been living in this area since 2008, and I've sometimes parking has been a little bit of a challenge, but I've never not been able to find a parking space. Currently, I live on 74th and Byron. I know my block has I don't know 11, 12 buildings. My building alone has 24 apartments. So I know that it's crowded, but I've never not been able to find a parking space. Even when I get here at like 1 o'clock in the morning, I can. You guys are saying that the garage right there is approved to build a garage. You had years to do this, and right now here in this part, um, weekdays you have two baseball games going at the same time, and these people are using our parking spaces. And I understand that they need to park somewhere. But if you start building a garage over there, you're gonna take also those parking spaces out of commission for a year, maybe two. So you're gonna really be stressing out not only the people that live in the area, but also the businesses that are in this area. And most of the businesses that are here are not changed, they're mom and pop. So you're gonna be like stressing everybody out. Um, I don't know. I think it's not a good time to implement. I mean, maybe in the future it'll be good, but not right now because you don't have enough parking space for everybody else that comes to this area to enjoy the band shell or the restaurants or whatever. You know, if you're only going to issue two parking spaces per household or whatever, I think it's not a good idea. I don't know.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for sharing those comments. And yeah, definitely.
And many of you may already know, but the city is designing a parking garage as part of the 72nd Street Community Complex. The garage is in design, and it's going to once it's built, it's going to provide for about 500 parking spaces. But it's in design, but it is moving forward.
Brandy123, if you could state your full name for us. We're gonna try you one more time, Brandy. We're gonna try Eula.
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, if you could state your full name for us, we could hear you.
My name is Julia Aguaro, and me and my family, we live in a 3-bedroom house. My husband and 2 adult kids. So I'm really concerned about the 2 parking space per household because our driveway can only handle 1 car and we have 4.
Thank you, Eula. Thank you for those comments. That's something that was also brought up. So we're inputting those comments. We're gonna go in person.
Claudia Manriquez. I live in the neighborhood for about 10 years. I want to thank you for this opportunity. I wish it was done earlier in the process because you have more time to better develop your plan. Okay? So that's one thing. Second, in my personal experience, I never had any issues finding space, even though sometimes I come at 2 in the morning. I do have to walk a little more, that's true, and it's tight, but I never had that problem. That's one thing. Then for that also, I think the program in South Beach works too because of the garage. You already have the stop route, so that will help having a garage. And also, like if you have also some other measures you can implement, like for instance, where I live on Express Via Boulevard, where I see at night that there are very big spaces left in between cars where you cannot park a car. A small car might fit, but not a larger car because there are no lines.
Yeah.
That's one thing. So that you have to optimize the space that you already have. So the other thing is that you have to also think about transportation. This doesn't have to be sustainable. You keep growing, and you're not going to have infinite space. So you have to be sustainable. Transportation is important. I have an office in South Beach. I'm not going there anymore because I cannot take the trolley, I cannot take the bus because it's impossible. And driving there for me is a pain. So if I didn't have to drive, I wouldn't need a car. That's the one thing. And then I want to know how you're going to implement and finance this program. Because it's gonna take money. Where are you gonna get the money? So that's my question. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So Jose, if you want to go towards cost of the program for the pilot, and then in the future, there will be a cost associated.
Correct, correct. But as I mentioned, during the 12-month period of the pilot program, there is no cost. Beyond that, if the pilot is implemented on a permanent basis, and that is totally a policy decision, the cost would need to be determined as part of that, as part of that decision. So we don't know yet if this moves forward, what the cost will be. With regard to transportation, because I also wear that hat, transportation director, we're in the process of negotiating a contract with a new vendor. Our trolley service, as some of you may know, is 10 years old already. It actually started in this neighborhood in North Beach back in 2014. So it's already 10 years old. It's reached the end of its useful life, and we're negotiating a new contract for the next generation public transit service citywide. And as part of that, we've got several ambitious goals to make the service more convenient. Low floor vehicles, for example, all low floor vehicles, and different benefits to make our transit service even better. And we're also looking at the routes, the alignments of the different routes as part of that new system.
Touch on the striping. They're actually not striped today to increase the amount of parking. That was the idea behind the striping. There was a comment about striping. Why are they not striped? The idea was in other areas of the city, you have striped spaces that are one space. I remember I used to be in the capital improvements department, and when we did Biscayne Beach, we did not stripe it, so that way we could squeeze more cars in. But yeah, the issue is people don't, which I've noticed in this area, people, because when you go to New York or other parts of the country, people park on top of each other. Here, we're actually very respectful in that regard, where we don't park on top of each other. And zones for compact cars. Yeah, and that's. Yeah, and they leave a gap. Yeah, and that's a good comment. Maybe that's something they could look into for the curb management. I'm gonna go, Sasha.
Hi, Sandra
Sandra.
Valcárcel. I want to thank everybody for trying to help us with parking problems. I think that's great. I think I have talked to some people, and we feel that we need the parking garages first, and then maybe we can think about this, because what is going to happen when, let's say we go with this first, and then what is going to happen when they build the parking garage on 73rd? You're going to take all that parking away while it's construction, right? So that's going to become a major problem for the area. And also, for example, the other thing that I want to know is I live in and if you decide to go with this first, which we really, really would like you to maybe wait and do the parking garage first. But if you do decide to go with this, I live in a condo and I have an assigned parking. But the neighborhood is big, so sometimes I need to drive to go visit a friend in the neighborhood or do shopping in the neighborhood. And if the condo owners or residents with assigned parking, we don't get resident parking, what do I do? Like if I have to go visit my friend in like 10 blocks away within the same neighborhood, well, what do I do? But you tell me.
Different neighborhood?
No, same neighborhood, but I need to drive. So I'm a resident here. I live in a condo. I have an assigned parking. And when I go see Mark, for example, I drive. And what if he doesn't have, he has two friends over and one visitor parking or whatever. So how do I park? I should have, even though I live in a condo and I have an assigned parking, I think we still need to have a resident parking ticket, even if it's just one, not two, whatever, right? But we do need that extra because I mobilize a lot in the neighborhood and I drive even to go shopping sometimes. to go to the post office. It's only like 5 parking spaces in the post office, right? And I mean, and then I'm gonna be penalized not being able to run my errands in the neighborhood. So maybe we should think about that as well. If
Thank
have
you.
it.
Yeah, thank you for the comment. Again, the parameters that we shared with you earlier are not set in stone.
Thank God.
They're not set in stone. We, the purpose of these meetings is to hear from the community, hear the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then we'll go back and
Yeah.
we'll make whatever adjustments.
They need to be done. Yeah, but I think, listen, we want to find a win-win situation for everybody, and we all have to commit a little bit. So I really urge you, to all of you, the city, the mayor, and the commissioners, to think about building the garage first, and then go with this. I think that's gonna be a less stressful a way to approach it. So we really, I know you want to help us. And Commissioner Suarez, thank you for wanting to help us. We do need all the help we can get. And we appreciate your support, even though you don't live in the neighborhood. But the parking garage, I think, is the way to go first, so that it's going to be an easier transition for the residents. Because just like you want to get more parking for the residents, we also want to make this process not painful for the residents. And the way that it's structured right now, it seems like it is going to be painful, not only for the residents, and I'm almost done, but for the businesses in the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you. You can come on up. We'll do another in person, then we'll go to the Zoom.
My name is Joe Hirsch. I live in Normandy Drive. I missed the meeting a couple of days ago.
Okay.
So I want to make a couple of
Welcome.
comments anyway.
Yeah.
First of all, I agree with what she's saying. It's better to build a garage and create more parking spaces. Everything I've read about this proposal doesn't create any more parking spaces. It's only a way of trying to limit certain people from parking. I think you may have a hidden agenda there. I'm not sure. I mean, there's been problems with people using their apartments in their homes as Airbnb, stuff like that. They're short-term rentals. And I think that's what the hidden agenda is, to try to get rid of those type of people. But the way it affects somebody like me, I'll give you an example. I have a brother who came to visit me last year, I should say, and he stayed for 10 days, and he used a public parking spot on the street, not in the apartment that I live in. So you're sort of penalizing people from, like my brother, from, if you make it strictly for Miami Beach residents, you're penalizing somebody like my brother who doesn't have a parking space, they has to come by car instead of by plane. I also have another friend who, I'm not sure how you're going to deal with this, but I have another friend who actually has a handicap sticker on his car. I don't know if you can regulate that or not. I don't think so. But if he comes to visit and he's in that zone.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah. So those are both great points. The first off, I think, and Jose will correct me if I'm wrong, your brother would qualify, I believe, for the visitor pass that would be implemented. But if you could walk us through also the handicap registration, because the second part of the question was, if somebody comes with a handicap, how do you regulate them parking, the handicap permit? How do you regulate them parking in the neighborhood? And we actually started a new program this year, or maybe at the end of last year, where we're looking for people to register. But if you could walk us through that.
And I'll let Alberto fill in on the details, but Kevin is correct. We implemented a disabled parking placard program earlier this year as well. And there's a way to register. We encourage everyone to register, everyone with a disabled placard to register. Just the one thing I wanted to say is there really is no agenda here other than to just try to prioritize parking for the residents. That we've heard from many residents that is challenging at times. So I'll turn it over to
Alberto. Another question though. You mentioned something about the trolleys. I think about 6 months ago, maybe a little longer, maybe 8 months ago, I filed a complaint against one of the trolley bus operators. He passed. There were four or five people at the stop, and he passed. And I got the number of the bus of the trolley rather. And I called it in. I never heard anything else about that. What happens in a case like that?
Well, and you reported it? You
Yeah.
say you reported it? All right, so, right after the meeting, I'll get with you and I'll
Quite a
get,
while ago, though, 6 to 8 months ago.
Yeah. so,
What is the process when somebody calls in a complaint?
we investigate the complaint. We have cameras on board the trolleys, video cameras. And so we view those cameras. We speak with our operator, our trolley operators, our trolley drivers are actually private, private employees, contract employees, so that service is operated by a private company. We speak with them. We take action against the employee depending on the whatever the issue is. We have some issues that we have zero tolerance. We have others where it's 3 strikes and you're out. And so those disciplinary actions are taken.
But I remember I spoke to somebody and I gave them my name and address and phone number. Nobody ever contacted me either by mail or by phone.
I apologize for that, but after the meeting, I'll take down your name and we'll dig up that incident and we'll close the loop with you.
Currently, we have 2 residential programs. One is for residents that live in residential zones. Once they register, they're able to park in that zone. That program is free. No disabled permit has to pay for it. Then we have a voluntary program, which if you don't live in a residential zone, but you want to continue to park in any meter free of charge, you have to register with us. Once you register, you can park throughout the city in any meter space, whether it's a parking lot, on-street, or garage, and there is no charge for that. So those are the 2 programs that we have. If for whatever reason the disabled person is not the driver, then we authorize up to 2 different vehicles that can be registered with that disabled permit.
Hi, Michelle, if you could unmute. Say your full name for us.
Did I unmute this time?
Yep, you're unmuted.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Michelle Ahmed. I think someone did end up mentioning my question or my concern. It was mostly about the parking spaces, noticing that people don't park back to back or they leave a lot of half spaces or quarter spaces so that it kind of feels like there's not enough room for cars to park when we could make more room for cars to park. So just wondering if there can be lines painted over or something so people can designate spaces better.
Thank you, Michelle. So that's something, what I was mentioning earlier, that's something we could take note of in the sense that I know in previous projects I had mentioned they were not striped in an effort to create more parking. And some people were saying, well, what about compact car parking where so that's something that the parking team's going to take back to see if we can make maybe special zones for smaller cars versus trucks and prioritize those so people park a little closer and creating more. So thank you for those comments. Before I go to Brandon, I have Everlyn, who we tried earlier. Everlyn?
Hi, my name is Evelyn Lopez. I have a couple questions. First off, I'd like to know if you would reconsider the cost of the visitor parking fee. I have my sister who comes and visits me at least 3 times a week. And sometimes I have family that comes from out of town and they'll stay with me for a week or 2. So now we're adding a cost to, my sister. Every time she comes, she's going to have to pay, $3 just to come have dinner with me. And the other thing is I'm wondering is what is the specific data that you're going to use to measure the success of this pilot program and to decide how to move forward or whether or not to move forward with it? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then we have in person, we have Brandon. We're gonna go to Brandon.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Good evening. So my name is Brandon Lloyd. Actually, I work for the city, but I'm also a North Beach resident. I live right up here on Normandy. I'm the aide to Commissioner David Suarez, and he's one of the sponsors of this. So I wanted to come in person since I live right up the road. I'm coming to all these meetings. And I just wanted to go over a few things in person, talk to you guys face to face, get your ideas. I'm working closely with the commissioner. Like the commissioner said, the intent of this program is to save more parking spaces for residents who actually live here. That's the intent. That's what we're trying to accomplish. We do want to make this program as accessible as possible, right? So we're open to ideas. Any concerns? My office is always open. You can call the commissioner, you can call me, you can email us. Anything we can do to make this hassle-free, to make it useful, we're gonna work on that. All resident, suggestions are gonna be taken into consideration. Now, a lot of you are saying, well, we need a garage, and I agree, we do need a garage. I mean, that's obvious. Unfortunately, the garage, it's not gonna be built in a day. It's gonna take 3 to 4 years for permitting to build the garage. And the commissioner, we can go to the commission and we can give them your input and try to expedite, push it forward as soon as possible, but it's still gonna take time. And last thing I wanna mention is the overdevelopment problem here in North Beach, right? So all of these buildings are gonna come online. The current commission did not vote for these buildings. It's from previous commissions, okay? So all of these, I don't wanna say monstrosities, but all of these new developments coming online, they're not gonna qualify for this program. So the developers are gonna have to tell all of those residents that either they park in the development's garages, or they're gonna have to not have cars or find alternate parking, because the people that already live here, we don't have enough parking as it is. There's not enough parking as it is. So yes, we need the garages, but all the new developments, they're not gonna get to be a part of this program. We didn't choose the developments. One more thing, and I'll cut it off. But we know you didn't vote for these developments. North Beach actually voted against a lot of these developments in the last referendum. But this program is going to disincentivize all of these people from building huge buildings without parking, because they know their new buildings, they're not going to be a part of this program. So it's actually going to help us. The traffic is a different issue. This is about the parking. New developments are not going to be a part of the parking program. So the alternative, let me put it to you this way. The alternative, if we don't do this program, they build all these buildings, they're all going to fight you guys for parking, right? So it's not an us versus them, but the new developments are going to be excluded. So think a little bit into the future. You're not going to have to fight these new developments for parking.
So
Hey, I agree. Maybe it's an urban planning issue. Right. So just very quickly, like I said, all these developments going up, they're going to be excluded. That's a positive. And it's a pilot program, folks. So we're gonna try it out. We're gonna come speak to me, come speak to our office, speak to the other commissioners. That's not true, though. That's not true. So just a point of clarification, it's free for the first year, so I'm not sure how free is theft.
Well,
After the first year, if you guys,
Brandon.
if really quickly, it's the commission can decide after the first year. Okay? So speak to your commissioners, tell them to keep it free. Perfect. So I hear you. I hear you. Guys, we hear you. The commissioners are listening to you. So if you want to keep it free, I'm sure they would 100% consider that. They 100% take your feedback, okay? So write an email. I'll give you all my card. Write me an email. I'll pass the feedback along to the commissioners. Hey, they want to keep it free. And if that's the will, I'm not a commissioner, but if that's the will of the commission, guess what? You're going to have free parking. So it's up to the commission. It's a political decision, but that's a year from now. Get involved in your government, write the commission, talk with us. I live here in North Beach. I'll come to your house. I don't care. You can text me 24/7. I mean, we're here to try to make your lives easier. So right. I think I've taken enough time, but the garages are coming. I'll let the commissioner know that people want to expedite it.
All right, so we're gonna bring it back up
Right.
here.
It's a new commission. So our commissioner just started in November. My commissioner just got elected. So
Great. We're gonna
work through that.
Thank you. So we're gonna bring it back up. Understood. No, we appreciate. Thank you, but thank you for coming. Hold on. Before I go to you, we're gonna clarify on the cost.
You're right. Just a point of clarification, since cost came up, and I was purposely trying to stay away from cost because we don't know exactly what the cost will be. But in South Beach, as you all know, we have a residential parking program, and the cost for an annual for all year is $56. $56 for 1 year. That comes out to about 13 cents a day. That's the case for South Beach. For North Beach, we don't know. What we do know is that there's no cost associated with the pilot, the first year.
Okay, what's your name? Can you say your name for us? Good
Harry
evening.
Christian to everybody.
Hello.
My name is Lizette Monty, and thanks for having this meeting. I wasn't able to come to the meeting for Parkview Island. I think it was Monday. I showed up on Tuesday. I got confused with the
Oh,
date,
it's okay.
I messed up. I live in Parkview Island, and my friend here, Olga, also lives in Parkview Island. We both own townhouses. I don't know. I'm sure they talked about this at the meeting. And I have my parking space that I've been there for 35 years. And so am I going to still be able to get 2 more decals, or do I have to have a decal? Do
you have a parking space?
Yes.
Okay, so
But that's another issue in
Yeah.
Parkview Island, because there's a couple of bullies in the area that have capitalized, have taken away a visitor's park that used to be there for 35 years. So I've been there that long. And he has taken 2 parking spaces. So is that going to be straightened out about the parking also? Us people that have the townhouses there, we both live on the water. And then I just want to know, do I still have to have my decal?
So I think for
And
this,
can I get 2?
can you get 2? So right now, I think that goes into
Is
if
everybody
there's
gonna
someone
have
that
a decal?
has,
In other words, everybody that lives on the island.
they have dedicated parking. So that's what we were discussing earlier.
Right.
Because Parkview Island, the people, there's 72 townhouses in Parkview Island, and there's issues with parking to begin with. There's wars there going on.
Understood. And
I think we all
so
should have a decal, because there's people that go to the beach and just park in people's parking spaces. There's on-street, that's another question I have for you. We have Parkview Island Park, the park, and there's
parking around. And what's gonna happen with that parking also, I wanna know. That's part of the residential zone, good, because you mentioned parks, I was wondering. Okay, good. So I need to know about my parking space, people that, we that live there in the townhouses that are only entitled to one, and what's gonna happen to those people that are taking two when they don't belong to them? Because one, for example, where I live, there's 4 townhouses and there's 5 parking spaces, and there's one that is, it was always for the visitor, but the neighbor in the front decided to take it for herself. Is that gonna be a problem? Is you guys gonna check into that? Did they talk about that on Monday? Are you gonna check into the who has what?
Yeah, so this mostly goes into properties that have existing parking, and that's what Jose's mentioning that, and in the presentation that you saw, originally, properties that had a parking space will not qualify. We got community feedback
But
that
if I
that's not
only
gonna
have one
work.
parking space and I wanted to have a second one.
Exactly. So that's where we got community feedback where it's gonna be at the discretion of the parking director, where we're looking to add that to the program. So that
So
way,
what's gonna
if you
happen?
have a parking space,
In my situation, I don't
uh,
care about what's gonna happen to
yeah,
me.
exactly.
'Cause
So
I
if
don't
you
wanna
have a
get-
parking space today, would you qualify for a pass? That's really what it comes down to.
So as we initially envisioned the pilot program, the answer would be no. However, we've been hearing from residents who only have one, they're only entitled to one parking space. So we're open to reconsidering that, but we do need to discuss it internally.
So us people that live in 72 townhouses, all of us that have, that live in Parkview Violet, we're not gonna have decals.
Well, again,
just
we
like-
we're
we're not in the picture.
we're reconsidering that,
So I
rather
don't
than
qualify for 2, is that what you're telling me?
as according to the original parameters that we shared with our city commission, no, you would not, but those parameters are not set in stone. So based on the feedback that we're hearing, and we heard very similar feedback in the first meeting, and as I mentioned, I'm sure we'll continue to hear that feedback going
So
forward.
not everybody's gonna have a decal. Not all the residents will have a decal, because I'm a resident there for 35 years. You should know that I live there. Oh, they're gonna scan my. So we're
Yeah,
still,
so
I'm
it's
still gonna
not,
have
it's
my
not
plate
decal per
registered?
se. It's gonna have your plate registered. And then what he's saying is you have a parking space. So originally, you were not gonna be able to qualify. We got community feedback where we need, if I have an apartment and I have a parking space, I need to qualify
But
this
I don't
for this
live in an
program.
apartment. I
Not
live
an
in a
apartment,
single, I live
sorry.
in a townhouse.
Yeah,
That's like a single family home.
a
There's no
property with,
association.
yeah, it's a property with a parking space. That's the feedback we're getting, where they need to go back to the drawing board and see how do we incorporate this in the
And how
program?
you gonna record that I live there?
How are we gonna record that you live
Yeah,
there?
how do you have?
Wait, do you own
documentation?
your town? Well, renters are part of the
I own it
program.
for 35
And if you
years.
own it,
It'll be
then
36
it's,
years. I turned 36 years
yeah,
this
and it's
month.
recorded in the property appraiser site on Miami-Dade County. So it's recorded.
Yeah.
And even if you had a renter, your renter would still qualify because renters qualify for this
I know
program.
all that.
No, I know, but just for the other people on Zoom that
Oh, I
may be
see.
concerned about renters.
So I don't qualify to get 2 decals.
As of right now, no, but
But it's something we're reconsidering for residents in situations
Because
like
if I have
yours
My daughter visiting.
to be able
but
to
I'm
have
taking care of
2.
The baby,
Mhm.
she's used to park, she parks around
Right.
the park.
Right,
So
right.
what's gonna happen? She's not gonna, I'm gonna do a $3, that's ridiculous, a $3 visitor parking. That
Right.
can add up, and you're only gonna give 10 a month, because it's
Right.
30 for 3 months,
Right.
per quarter.
So we're going to be considering in your situation, one additional permit, for example. You already are
Should be a
entitled
case-per-case
to
basis,
one.
you know.
Well, and that's
In
how
my
we,
case, would be one additional. That's
one
for my
additional
daughter.
in your case, right? And that's how we're structuring this on a case-by-case basis. But we're hearing feedback from the community that they would like to have some definition to that, to be able to know whether they support the
So what
program
am I
or
gonna
not.
know?
So.
When it's gonna happen, how do I know?
Mhm, mhm.
She lives alone too, like I do, but she has also her niece that comes over to help her.
All right,
Sometimes
well, and that's what these meetings are for. So we'd like to know, okay, in this neighborhood, what are those situations that we need to?
Parkview Island's a huge problem.
it is,
It's enormous.
it is a huge
70
problem. We're taking notes on this.
72
But before we go to you, we have Commissioner
So it's probably at
Suarez
least
on. I also want to recognize Commissioner Bott. Commissioner Bot's on as well. Thank you for joining us. Commissioner Suarez wants to clarify a few points. He raised his hand. So Commissioner.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
To everyone who's listening, I think it's been loud and clear that the most democratic, most fair thing to have is that every household gets 2 parking spaces. So, for example, if you live in a condo or an apartment and you only have 1 parking space, I believe the fair thing to allow 1 parking space for the residential program. If you live in a condo or apartment that has no parking spaces, you'd be given 2. And so I think that is the most fair. You know, unfortunately, there's a lot of people who right now live in a condo and they have 6 cars for whatever reason, and they're taking up parking spaces from residents who live there. And Jose is correct. When this was originally drafted, it was intended to say, you know, no permits given to anyone who has a single parking space. I don't think that's fair. I was planning on moving forward with 2 spaces per household, no matter what. However, if you have 1 parking space, it wouldn't be fair to the others who don't have a parking space. So I think, again, every family household should be afforded 2 parking spaces. So I heard you loud and clear, and that is something that I'm going to discuss with my colleagues on the dais to revise. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. So again, on July 24th, that is going to be the day of the public hearing. The meeting's in City Hall. In the back, there's a little piece of paper that it also has a Zoom link, so you could call in on Zoom. Before I go to the people who spoke, I'm going to come back to you. Hold on, let me go to Thomas. This guy.
That's quick question.
Okay, go ahead.
This pilot program apply for the seawater too?
The seawall?
The seawater. And the
Stillwater. Stillwater and Biscayne Point are not included. It's only Biscayne Beach, that middle piece.
For the seawater, that included the island too?
Well, still the Stillwater behind the guard gate is not included. Stillwater Drive.
It's a different.
Huh?
It's a different zone.
Yeah, there's no zone.
The neighbor in the 86th Street want to close the property.
Sorry, no, thank you. What do you mean if they want to close the property?
See, we want to close the street.
If you
make the gate for us.
Oh, if you want to put a gate on, if they want to put a gated area on 86.
That don't apply.
Well, what do you mean it does not apply for that? So basically, if you wanted to pursue that as a neighborhood, if you wanted to pursue that as a neighborhood, you would need to come together, all the homeowners and property owners come together. And there's an intense process for that includes the county. So that's an option. But really, to answer your question, Stillwater Drive behind the guard gate, that's not included. So let me go to Thomas and then I'll come back to you. Thomas? Thomas? Sorry, you had your hand
Hello,
up.
how are you? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, my name is Thomas Aoki and I live on Normandy, and I thank Commissioner Suarez because I sent him some nasty gram emails. My concern was about condos that only had 1 parking space, especially since some condominiums here have 2, 3 bedrooms. So that was kind of my commentary, but he jumped in and clarified that. So I'm hoping that he'll push for that extra space for those condos that only have 1 parking space. And that's about it.
Thank you. All right. Last person. How's it going?
Okay, am I the last person?
Yeah, I think you're gonna be the last, unless anybody else.
Thank you all again. I'd like to resurface an important question that one of the attendees asked on Zoom earlier, but that wasn't answered.
Okay.
Which was, what are data, or what is going to be considered success for this program? How will you all know that the program is successful? And my sort of secondary answer, part of that question is, would that data include the economic impact on local businesses?
Perfect. So measures of success. Jose, if you go walk us through that.
First and foremost, community feedback. We're doing this for the residents. So how the residents how the residents feel about this and is going to be, paramount. The businesses as well. Even though we're doing this for the businesses, we don't, sorry, for the residents, we don't want to have very adverse unintended consequences for businesses. So I think it's going to be very important to hear from the businesses. And then always, data that we're going to be tracking in terms of compliance, in terms of how many people register, how many warnings are issued during the first 2 months, how many citations after that. I think that's going to be very telling in terms of whether it's success or not.
Great. So with that, this concludes today's meeting. We're going to stay here if you want to talk to us offline. For those of you that want to do this again, we're going to do it all over again next week on Normandy Isle. That's at the golf course on Monday, July 15th. Then Thursday, we'll be back in this room to talk about Town Center. Again, it applies whatever neighborhood you're in, you're welcome to come to these meetings. And then the day of the hearing is going to be July 24th. And those are the time certains. Again, a time certain doesn't mean it's going to be heard at that time, but it can't be heard before that time. So again, thank you for participating. If you're just joining us, we're going to be here and we'll be able to talk to you. Thank you, everybody.